Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupada Paramahus Parivrajakacarya Stota Sada Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Antar Vipayapur Dham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaved Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All good is to assemble devotees. All good is to assemble devotees. All good is to assemble devotees. All good is to Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayatu. Before reciting Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narnarayan Rishi, the supermost human beings, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. By regularly listening to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable act. And the third one is Nigamakalpataro Galitam Phalam Shukmukhad Mukadravya Sanyutam Pibada Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhaukaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the liberated souls. So these are the three verses we should be chanting. And because I always forget, I want to chant it now, the Guru Parampara. Om Ajnānatimirandasya Jnānāñjana Shalaka Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svabadadikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaham Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, this is Canto 3, Chapter 7, text number 3. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The verse is like this. Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatah struptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadantaha Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha. Anybody would like to? Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha. Kridayam udyamo ravasya chikrinayanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha. Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha. Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha swatastruptasya cha katham nivrutasya sadanyataha. Kridayam udyamo ravasya kamaschi krishanyataha स्वतस्त्रप्तस्य च कथं निवृतस्य सदान्यतः. प्रभु. क्रियामुद्यमूर्वस्य कामश्चिकृशान्यतः स्वतस्तृप्तस्य च कथं निवृत्तस्य सदान्यतः. Very good, very nice. Mataji, today is Uttarayan. You know that, right? It's the most auspicious day. And that's why it's very auspicious to read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also at the same time. In Bhagavad Gita it says, Agni Jyotirah Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of a day, during the fortnight of waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. So, one of the great personalities, Bhishma Pitama, he actually waited for this particular day. Is that important? So, here, word-to-word translation by this particular purport we should know is Kridayam, in the matter of playing. Udyamaha means enthusiasm. Arbasya, of the boys. Kamaha, desire. Chikridisha, willingness to play. Anyataha, with other boys. And Swata Truptasya, for one who is self-satisfied. Cha, it's also Katham, what for. Nivrutasya, one who is detached. Sada, at all times. Antyataha, anyataha means otherwise. Boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because He is self-satisfied and detached from everything at all times. Once more, the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because He is self-satisfied and detached from everything at all times. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one without a second, there is no possibility that anything besides Him can exist. He expands Himself by His energies in multi-forms of self-expansions and separated expansions as well. Just as fire expands itself by heat and light, since there is no other existence beside the Lord Himself, the Lord's association with anything manifests His association with Himself. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse number 4, the Lord says that Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matasthani sarvabhutani na chaham teshva avasthita. The complete manifestation of the cosmic situation is an expansion of the Lord Himself in His impersonal feature. All things are situated in Him only, yet He is not in them. That is the opulence of the Lord's attachment and detachment. He is attached to everything, yet He is detached from all. So, regarding this, it also says in Nectar of Devotion that Atah Shri Krishnamadi न भवेद ग्राह्यम इंद्रय सेवोनुमुखे ही जीवादो स्वयं एव स्फुरति अधः. Means Lord's names, fame, pastimes, all these things cannot be understood by material senses. We have the mouth, the skin, the tongue, the eyes, the nose, and sometimes we speak and touch and taste and see the form or smell. But all these senses has no any kind of ability to know Krishna through that. But we have to at least try because that's the only thing Krishna has given us. So when we speak, we chant holy name. When we touch something, we chant the deities. For example, when you're bathing or worshipping, that time you have chance to touch Krishna. And then we taste the Krishna prasadam, that's the time we can taste the taste that he has put in the food. And our eyes should also be enjoying the form, just like the beautiful form of Radha Krishna on the altar. And whenever a flower is given to us, the arti will be soon. And then when the flower is offered, the pujari is passing the flower, and that we smell. So this is the way to get in touch with Krishna, you know. Another way is to have kind of understanding. And in Brahma Samhita is explained this way. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santas sadeva radeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundarma chinta guna swarupa govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. One can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead always within himself and outside himself if one has developed the transcendental loving attitude towards him. And it's not difficult to realize him, understand him, or at least understand the verse that we are singing just few minutes before, right before we started this Bhagavad class. The curtains opened and we had this, call it Shrungar Arti, and in which we saw this form. And they were singing the same Govindam Adi Purusham Chintamani Prakar Sadmashu. So the thing is, it has been doing, we are doing since we moved to this temple. Every single day, we never miss that, you know. So it's like hammering. The same message is given us every single day at 7:30 in the morning, which is very good, which reminds us that one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead always within himself and outside himself if one has developed the transcendental loving attitude towards him. Now, suppose there is a king, and the king has his kingdom, he has his own government, And there are many, many departments within that kingdom. So what happens? That king occasionally visits some department someday, but it does not necessary that he has to be in every department at every time. Because manifestation of the king's energy, and that is nothing but those departments. It's just expansion of king's power in terms of the different departments. And each department is resting on king's power. So whenever king wants to go there, he can go there. But otherwise, he is always there. In Bhagavad Gita, also in 10th chapter, it is proved that this diffusion of all the energies of Krishna creates this material world. And that's why Krishna says that Atva Bahunaitena Kim Gnanena Tavarjunam Vishrapyaham Idam Krishnan Ekamshena Sthito Jagat. But what need is there, Arjuna, for all this detailed knowledge with a single fragment of myself are pervade and support this entire universe? So Krishna is everywhere present by his personal presentation. Now, since we are learning this particular chapter, the real way to understand this particular verse is in contrast with whatever we studied so far. So last Friday when I was here, we were talking about a gigantic egg because we were studying how the universe or the Brahman was created. And also I give the example of a Garbha Shastra in which a man and woman, when they unite, and the womb of a female partner receives an egg. And once egg is established, then it takes about 9 months and you see the child, the doctor or nurse will announce or pronounce that, oh, it's a boy. But it takes some time. So, since this Hiranyagarbha or the first Purush is incarnated, what happens? That Sunday, we just took some kind of resolution about distributing books. And everybody said we will be distributing 50,000 books, right? That was our goal. Now let's say somebody orders 50,000 books from BBT, and the truck comes right here in front of the temple. And the guy says, where would you like to put us? Where will you put? 50,000 boxes will be, you can load in the lobby, in the temple room will be there. Some more can go on the altar, some in that office, in the kitchen downstairs, and the next door hall and all that. It'll be too much. So we have to think where we are going to store those books. Similarly, what happened? Up to chapter 6, Maharishi Vedavyas was thinking about creating the Brahmand. But then, where will you put that Brahmand? Because egg is ready, and it's not going to much time, when the Brahmand is right before you. Where would you put it? Can put in the lobby, cannot put in the temple room or next door or anywhere, right? Brahman. It's a huge, big Brahman. So the need was arisen. And that is why the Acharyas call this particular chapter as a Kshepak. Kshepak is something plugged in. The main traffic sometimes is diverted, right? You go straight, but all of a sudden you see the red board with the arrow. The traffic is diverted. Go to the right, take an exit, go to the left, go to the right. And eventually it will take you to the same route, but the traffic is diverted. So this chapter is not talking about the gigantic egg anymore. This chapter is talking about the storage where the Brahman will be stored or situated, or it will rest, in other words. So this particular chapter is talking about, for few verses, mana. Uh, Mana means mind. That there is universe of mind, manasrusti. So this is a plugged in portion of Bhagavatam where instead of Brahmand, all of a sudden they started talking manasmriti. Why? Because they realize it is necessary to think about where the Brahman has to be raised. And in order to do that, something happened. And we have been, every single day we are here and we read the verse, right? We chant the verse, we go word to word, the translation, all the purport given by Srila Prabhupada. And still, we didn't realize what had happened. What had happened? That while talking about this particular Brahman, Maitreya Muni said something, and that triggered Vidura to ask a question. All of a sudden, let's say Maharaj is giving a Bhagavatam class, and somebody, one of you, raise, was Maharaj. How about, right? He's talking, but he's interrupted by the listener. So this is the scenario right here. Let's say professor is teaching, and he says, 1, 2, 3, 4, the steps on the board he is writing, and he says, plus you add the value of theta, and then don't forget the 3.47 for the pi, and naturally you have to multiply by 10 because that's a constant. And then person who wants to go and have a samosa in cafeteria, he will not bother to ask question. Only person who is interested in learning the formula or mathematics or higher mathematics, he will say, sir, wait a minute. What is this pi? What is theta you are talking about? What is this constant? Will you explain us? Right? So this is exactly the same, that Vidura is asking a question. And what did Maitreya Muni said so that Vidura had to ask that question? Vidura is not ordinary student. He was, of course, sitting like you as a disciple, and Maitreya Muni was on the position of spiritual master. But still, Vidura learned all the books that Bruhaspati wrote. Our books on the material world is written by Vedvyas Maharshi, but he is coming from the spiritual world where Bruhaspati is writing all the books, and he had studied those books. So when Maitreya Muni said something, he had a question. What did he say? Maitreya Muni. Anybody guess? Maitreya Muni said that Yat Swayam Chatma Vartmanya Veda. If you go to the next page before, then Maitreya Muni says in 6th chapter, Yat Swayam Chatmana Vartmana Veda. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord Sri Krishna. Right? What to speak of others? This is what Maitreya Muni said. This is Maya, or Krishna's name, form, pastime, this, all these things is glories. I cannot describe. I'm trying. But nobody can describe because Krishna himself doesn't know this. This is unknown to him. And Vidura was shocked. because that is some kind of deficiency. If there is a very rich man and if accountant comes and says that, my boss doesn't even know how much money he has got, then we say, really? What kind of rich man is that? You know? So he's doubting that you are putting limitation on Krishna, right? We call him omnipotent, Satchidananda Vigraha. And now you're trying to prove that he does not something, right? So that's why he's asking. And that is why this scripture starts, or the particular passage starts with, while Maitreya was this speaking, Vidura expressed a request, and Acharya calls it a Kshepak. That was the interruption in his speech. And because they wanted to plug in some other kind of subject, Vidura raised questions. What are the questions? So one that I just read, the particular verse, is a fivefold question. Fivefold. Like when I raise my hand, you see my four fingers and the thumb, right? Similarly, that question includes second question, third question, and fourth and fifth questions within that questions. You can go one by one, but it's better to know that it is a fivefold question. That way we understand it more. So, Vidura, when he raised his hand, Maitreya Muni says, yes. So he says, how do the activities of the unchangeable that take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of material nature? How does Krishna is connected to Maya, right? The mode of goodness or mode of passion or mode of ignorance has no any scope when it comes to Krishna. But then all these activities, it feels like that, like you said, that he is lacking some place in knowing his own activities or his own glories. How is it possible? The second question was, boys are encouraged by desire to play with others. But one who is swatatrupta, we just read that word, self-satisfied, and nivrutta, one who is also detached. How is it possible that he performs pastimes with other children? At this time of hour, he is standing outside Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, and so many cows and cowherd boys and girls and everybody. And he said, Madhumangal, come on, where are you? He said, 2 minutes. I know 2 minutes, come on, rush. Every day you are late. Why he has to depend on Madhumangal? Right? Ordinary children, boys are encouraged by desire to play with others. That's a different story. They are missing something in their own life. They count on others. They look for friends and friendship. Krishna, how can you explain this? That one who is a swatatrupta, self-satisfied and detached, is depending on somebody else. Then he says, the place, time, situation, dream, other circumstances cannot change pure soul's identity. So how then can the living entity become forgetful of his real identity and identify with matter? Anybody, just you ask him, how many doesn't think that they are not their body? You can say something like that, oh, I'm not this body, I'm not this body. But if I slap your face, you will slap me back. If I hit your car, you will say, you hit my car. Yeah, right? There is so much consciousness of our own bodily status that we cannot just say that we are maintaining our concentrational position all the time and we remember our own identity. We forget our identity and we identify with the matter 24 hours a day. Then he says, misfortune and miseries, all the super soul is present in the heart. How is it possible? When Narad Muni came to this material world very first time, he says, Marchaloke jana sarve nana klesh samatmita nana yoni samutpanam pachante papa karma bihi. Everyone is suffering by avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh, parinivesh. You know, avidya means I don't know. There is no one can say that I know everything, Avidya is there. Asmita, I. Only, you are so insignificant. But since like we are there, that just I-ness tells us that we are something. So even though we are insignificant, everybody goes I. And mine. This is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. That's asmita. Raga, I like this. Dvesha, I don't like that. And parinivesha. Although you are so much confident of yourself, you are always worried. This is going to be stolen. If I don't lock it, somebody is going to take it away. And while sleeping, you even worried about Yamaraja, that any time he can knock the doors and take me away from this material world. The fear of death, that is parinivesh. So these kind of 5 clashes are there. But how is it possible when Krishna is in your heart, right? Those 2 birds they are talking about on a branch. 2 birds are sitting, one is a soul, next to it is a super soul. This is how in our heart Krishna is there. So, why don't we really use that Krishna in order to protect ourselves? Or why even since Krishna is there, why? It's for example, when we give some money to some Mataji, she takes and put it here. Have you seen that? They'll just take it, it becomes a pocket here. So in that dress, they'll just put the money there. So Krishna is there. And then Mataji needs $10, she will just pull out from there, because she knows it's there. So when you see some window shopping and say $25, right away your hand should go there and say, I'm not poor, I can spend $25, and you buy it. Similarly, this dejection of heart and your miseries and misfortune. Yeah, I'm poor, I'm meager, I'm miser, I'm unhappy. All those things, how does it help us? When you know that Krishna is in your heart, just like money could be spent when you need it, when this kind of distress come upon you, why don't you think of Krishna? That is a very beautiful question. That misfortune and miseries, all the super soul is present in our heart. That's one of the questions. And finally, because he wants to create something new, which Brahmand can be rested, he's talking about the mental plane. And he says, mind illusioned by distress of nations. You said that Krishna also having a little stinge of nations. He doesn't know his own glory. So I am fed up with this mind illusion by distress of nations. And I need to clear up. And how to do that, please tell me. So these are the 5 questions in a one question. And that's what we are learning right now. So, naturally, main subject, the creation of Brahman, was interrupted. And the Manasrushti or mental plane is now plugged in where Brahman can rest. In order to inject that subject, he's using the words etasmina mano vidvan kashmalam manasam mahata. That mental bewilderment, he's bewildered by mentally by listening to where Krishna is even unable to do something. So he is introducing this subject. And finally, when Maitreya Muni says that by devotional service and by having faith in Krishna and by creating love for him, then it's possible that we can overcome with this particular feeling. So just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Nasto moha smriti labdha tva prasadat mayachyuta sthitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Arjuna says, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory. I am now firm and free from all the doubts, and I am prepared to act according to your instructions. So similarly, I don't want to steal somebody's verses that going to happen next week, but that's what it is that Maitreya Muni is going to explain how to overcome this kind of doubts in your mind about Krishna and about the subject matter that we are talking about. And after listening to him, the bottom line was devotional service and loving Krishna. Just like Arjuna say, Nasto mo smriti labdha, Vidura also told Maitreya Muni that Sanchinnaha sanchayo mayham manome sampradhavati. The Sanskrit words are different, but the translation exactly the same. That my doubts are removed and my mind is relieved. Mind is relieved. When you have doubt, then your mind is captured within the doubt. And that's why you feel some kind of bondage, some kind of pressure all the time mentally. And that was expressed right here beautifully by Vidura. But now, since he was convinced by the preaching of Maitreya Muni, Vidura says that my doubts are removed and my mind is relieved. So that is the real liberation. Sometimes we call it a moksha also, or nirbandhan also we call it. Because what happens, that there is a big misunderstanding. When we talk about, for example, mokshishyami mashucha, when Krishna says that, I can award you the moksha or liberation, or salvation, nirvana, whatever word you use it, is okay. But who gets the moksha? Who is liberated? Who is out of the bondage? Is it the body? People most of the thing, because we are all body conscious people. I'm going to be liberated, right away our hand go on our body, touching the body, right? But it's not the body, because body you are going to leave right here. It will be burned. Someone may dig a hole and put it in the ground. They may throw in the river and the fish may eat it. Or if they throw it in the jungle somewhere, you die, then birds and beasts will come and eat it. So body is not going to be liberated. It's going to vanish. So Atma, is it Atma is liberated? No. Atma does not need to be liberated. Atma is eternal. It will be there even if you die. or whatever happens to you, Atma is always there, right? So not the body, not the Atma. What is liberated or what is affected by all these things is a mind. And that's why in the chapter also the mind is given manah evam nushanam karanam bandha moksha. If we are in bondage, that's because of our mind. And if you are in position where we can say I'm liberated, that is also a position of mind. So that is why Vidura says, the sanchinna sangshayo mayam mano me sampradhavati. And my mind is relieved from all kind of doubts. So this is a very interesting chapter, and particular verse that I read was very beautiful. Anybody has any question or anything? Yeah, Prabhu. You have to speak a little louder.
The Vidurji you are talking about in this verse, is he the one who was in Mahabharat? Like Krishna went to his place to have spinach, or this Vidurji is someone else?
No, this is in Bhagavatam itself. It's verse number 39. That's where 39 it says where Maitreya Muni is creating some kind of doubt within Vidura. That Yatsvam Chatmana Vartmana Veda, we just read on the board that the self-sufficient Lord even doesn't know. That's where he thought, is it true? I thought he's omnipotent. He knows everything. So this is where it started. Verse number 39 Bhagavatam. And number 40, he himself is washing hands by saying, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Maitreya Muni says, Yato vacho. Vacho means by speaking. When we go on pilgrimage sometimes in India, there is a mountain here, and when you see, there is a mountain across also, right? And you are in between. So what people do usually, they loudly they chant something or say something, right? In movies, they will usually show Krishna. And then what happens? That word Krishna goes to the other mountain, bounce back, and you hear that same word Krishna. Then again, that bounce word is bouncing to this mountain where you are and going back to that mountain, and then you say Krishna second time, and then again it comes back. And so 7, 8 times you hear by speaking one word only, Krishna, 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 just like you, as if you are speaking in the well. So yato vacho nivardante. Maitreya Muni says, I'm speaking, but it's just bounced back. I came back without Krishna. Aprapya manasasara, my mind also came back. All my senses came back. Not only the presiding deities of the senses, all the demigods, they also came empty-handed. Even Lord Brahma, Adideva, he himself said that he is inconceivable. I cannot understand him. So what to speak of you and me? This was his point, right? The reason is that as we glorify Krishna, Krishna's glories are increasing by that time. You understand? It's like Mother Yashoda is running after Krishna. But children are very active and they can go faster than you. So what happens that she is cutting 25 feet distance. Meanwhile, Krishna is cutting 50 feet distance. So how she's going to catch? Finally, out of mercy, he says, well, I can see my mother is exhausted. I can see she cannot even breathe anymore. I know she's perspiring. So that's why he slowed down. And then Mother Yashoda is catching. But this way, Krishna's glories, they grow and grow. So we cannot actually describe. And it grows to the extent that you cannot even, Krishna himself cannot even track down to that. Sometimes they show, it's funny, the American woman, they wear a sari when they get married, the wedding sari, right? So the wedding gown is usually 20 feet bigger than, her. So what happens that it is, the end is here, she's standing there, right? And sometimes for some entertainment, they make about 100 feet long sari. And if while she's walking, if sari gets stuck someplace, she cannot track down where the end is. She knows there must be some tree or some pebble or some stone or some furniture, something is stuck. But she keeps, on the standing in the same spot. She's trying to grab it, but the sari doesn't come out because it's 100 feet behind her. So this is what's happening. That in this case, the glories are in front of Krishna, and this crude example that I gave you, but it's the same concept that this is the limitation. It's all there. Like verse number 39, 40, and while Maitreya was speaking, Vidura expressed the request that verse number 1. Huh? Right, that's what I said. That Vidura said something, and then Maitreya Muni said something, and based on that, Vidura was asking a question on 7th chapter. So this is a kind of diversion from what we were talking about. Last time we were talking about who can measure the potency of gigantic form, prog theory and all that. We learned that. But we are not talking about the gigantic, what you call, form anymore. All of a sudden, just like I said, traffic is diverted. The subject matter is also diverted in this for a while. And then they continue on the same route. So what happens that he says that Yasmin Dashivida Pranas Sendriyartha Indriyas Trivruta. We were talking about once when he explained everything about the how to take care of your mental doubts, and when all the doubts were resolved, Vidura again coming back to the subject matter, because otherwise it will not be wise on his part to raise a question while he was already talking about something else. So he says, we were talking about the gigantic Virat form and his senses, sense objects, 10 kinds of life, air, and the 3 kinds of vigor. 3, 10, and 1 you have to remember. Body, mind, and senses, this is 3. The 10 is the senses and sense objects makes 10, and then 1 is the heart. So Vidura comes to the same subject and says, please talk about it now. Yasmin Dashivida Prana Sendriya Indriya Sri. That is in 7th chapter, verse number 23. So, since it is all related with the mental plane and Manasrusti, the whole universe, because if Man was not there, the mind was not created, the Brahman would not exist. All the Brahman exists in my mind, in your mind, in his mind, is his mind. Everyone is carrying the whole Brahman in their mind. And that is where it is stored. So this is a wonderful arrangement that God has made. So one may see in dream his hair cut off. That's why some of the examples are given in this chapter. That one may see in dream his hair cut off. And that is the time, like once your head is cut off, how are you going to see? But still, you are dreaming and still you see that your head is cut off. So it is mental, it's not the eyes that is participating in this particular event. Head is cut off, right? So another example they give about the moon. The beautiful moon is there in the sky and is reflected in the water. The nature of the water is to, even a little bit of air can shake him, right? And that's why the moon itself is shaking, breaking. And you see what happened to the moon, it's breaking. But it's because of the reflection which is dealing with the water, the moon breaks up or shakes up. So this is the thing that the religion of water is kampan, means to, and then it's not of a moon, but still. And that is why this Atma Paramatma, the self and the matter, that there are two birds, one keeps eating and the other one is God himself. And all you have to do is look at Krishna, because he is supervising us. And once you do that, you are okay. But you just try to enjoy, and close your eyes towards Krishna, then there is a miseries and unhappiness. Prabhupada also explains bringing the sun, because right now it's cold. I could not even come here. It's freezing cold, right? But that is, sun is there, but we feel like absence of sun. So the cold, heat, or snow, clouds, all these things has something to do with the sun. They are the product of sun. And they have the potency that they can cover the sun even. You cannot cover the sun, it's far away. But at least being on the earth, you feel that, oh, the sun is covered now and it's cloudy. It's raining. It's freezing, right? Snow, all that. So he also gives the example of magician, that yesterday we saw that the magician creates a cow. But the cow is not magician, or magician is not a cow. It's just expansion. So all these things that come in your mind about Krishna or his potencies or Maya and all that, these are nothing but the expansions of Krishna. And that is what we see that. And we have questions about it. That's known as doubts. And Vidurji beautifully expressing his doubts in fivefold questions. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Natwar Prabhu ki. No, the reason I'm say Jai to Natwar Prabhu is there were 70 people who were watching Pralanand Maharaj. And everybody sitting in the hall went to the corner and trying to do something so that people can hear, because they were constantly sending messages. Cannot hear, volume. Nobody could fix. All of a sudden, if you can see that video, very wonderful, very dramatic. Natwar Prabhu enters, and he's not coming for fixing or anything. He wanted to grab something from the corner, so he came, he took it. Suddenly he saw on the ground, on the floor something, and he touched the floor, walked away, and there was a beautiful sound. It was not just magic touch. Maybe the wire was buried under something. Maybe it was not even plugged in. Maybe it was not switched on. I don't know what he did. But he did something that everybody were happy to have the sound. So that's why Natwar Prabhu ki jai. Maharaj, would you like to add something? 7. See what happens when you there is a hole in the door. You see that hole in the door over there? I see because my table is there right against the wall. And every Sunday evening I see everybody passing by will try to see through the hole. Who is giving the lecture? Who is leading the kirtan? Is particular person is there or no? Do you see Ram Rao there? Yeah, all that kind of thing. Through that hole, they get the information. But the hole gives you a little bit of. It doesn't tell you everything about the room. The best thing is to open the door, step in the temple room, and try to look all over. You will see. So the thing is that this process is nice. We are always in touch with Bhagavatam by giving one by one verse, but we'll never ever figure out, right? Today what I read, tomorrow somebody will read another question, then the third question. Similarly, I remember last year when we were here, I asked some devotee, do you know how many questions were asked? And he said, no. This is the 60th question. I was counting. 60 questions were asked when we were reading Bhagavatam yesterday. But then every day people just, they listen to one question and they go to the next question and the third question. And they don't worry about what is the answer to those questions. So that is why I say that, when in this particular chapter, why it was asked and what are those questions, I try to go over. So tomorrow when that question comes, you will have it in your mind that, yes, this is a part of the question. This is a part of the answers. This is where the Manasmriti or Manasrusti ended. And now we are jumping into the gigantic egg again. Then we are coming back to Brahmanda Srushti again. So you should have some kind of, just like a birds are flying at 10 feet, 15 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. As you fly higher and higher, you see more and more. As you come down lower and lower, you see less and less. So this is what it is, that, this peephole study makes it very limited. We are only concerned with the today's verse, and we don't care about tomorrow, or we try to forget yesterday's verse. But no, you should have that whole picture in front of you, whole perspective of it. That's why I, try to draw that as a fivefold question. Hare Krishna, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. I was trying to catch the 5 questions.